so I obviously didn't use my bullet journal on holiday. Hello again team, it's Jess or Jashi Karin and welcome back for my week 31 plan with me. As can be expected, today I'm setting up for week 31 in my bullet journal, but I don't actually have a weekly spread for week 30, so instead of just being for 7 days, the weekly I'm going to set up is going to be for 10 days. So it'll include the 24th through to the 2nd of August. Before we get into that though, as per usual, just having a look at how last week went. As you can see, I did use my journal on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but on Thursday we left for our holiday, so the rest of the week did not get used. The packing list was quite helpful though. I quite like this style of layout, so I'm going to stick with something similar for next week. But the real question is, where is it going to go? So as I mentioned in my last weekly plan with me, this is the last full spread that I have in the craft paper section, or at least the first craft paper section of this notebook. As you can see, if we flip over, there's only actually one page of craft paper here, and then we're into the blackout section. Rather than do a one-page weekly, you can see I've started taking down some notes on a book that I'm reading here. And instead of moving my weekly into the next section, or the blackout section, I'm actually going to turn to the last craft paper section in this book and put it back there. So flipping back there now. I'm actually not too fussed about having things chronologically in my journal. As long as I can find them and I know where things are, it's not really a problem. I am, however, kind of fussy when it comes to having an entire of 1 month all on the same type of paper. So week 31 will go here, and because week 32 is going to be in August, that'll be in the blackout section of my notebook. Before we get into it though, just a reminder that any of the equipment I use in today's setup is linked in the description box below. From first touch of the pen to final erasings, this spread took about 10 minutes to set up. Of course, as always, this doesn't include the pencil sketches, so that's probably closer to about 13 minutes. For this weekly, I decided not to put any decoration on because as I have 10 days to fit onto one double-page spread, I wanted to take up all of that available space with just my task lists. Also, I know that coming to the end of the holidays, I still have a lot of things to do before we go back to school next week. So maximising the space for productivity was kind of a focus for me. Thank you to everybody who left suggestions about how I could use my science theme to make use of the changing colour of the paper between the craft section and the blackout section, or how I could somehow cram 2 weeks onto one page, or how I could take sections of craft paper from the back of my journal and shove them into that section there. As I mentioned, I'm not particularly fussed on having my journal out of order, but I am fussed about not having it in the same colour paper. I know the solution I'm using here certainly would not be for everyone. I know that my friend Rachel in particular is having a hard time with the idea of my journal not being chronological. But this solution is working for me. In terms of the questions that were left on my last weekly plan with me, our first one comes from Francesca Mia, who asked, "Why did you choose the elements you did, if I may ask? I've got my personal favourite elements too, vanadium and astatine, but why those particularly?" So on my last weekly plan with me, I chose 5 elements, and they're all related to famous scientists. There are more than just the 5 I chose, but I picked the ones that have special significance to me. If I was going with favourite elements, I probably would have picked bismuth as one of them. Probably also copper, bromine, and osmium. Our next question comes from Kateri, who asked, "What do you use to edit?" I assume you mean for my videos. For that I use Filmora. But if you were talking about Instagram pictures, for that I use Snapseed. Deborah asked, "I'm intrigued by this Neapolitan notebook. How many pages are in each colour section?" Each section has 16 individual pages, so that's counting like the first front cover page, and then the back of that page, and then the next page over, and the back of that page. So you could say there are 7 full spreads, and then the back and front cover of that section, if that kind of makes sense. Our next question comes from Kim, who asked, "How do you keep your lines so consistent?" My lines tend to change in width a lot. Like they start really thick, and in the middle they get really thin, and then it ends up really thick again. So this comes from two main things that I can think of. One, holding my pen in a consistent way, so not kind of changing the angle I'm holding my pen from, because sometimes that can have an effect. And the other thing is consistent pressure. For me, that usually means really pressing down on your pen, which isn't the best thing to do for your pens. But it does help my lines look a little more consistent. Also, if I do have an inconsistency in my line, before I take my ruler away, I'll just go over that section again, just to try and make it look a little bit more uniform. I Am Hydra asked, what is your favourite season? It would probably have to be autumn, because things are kind of cooling down. I prefer cooler weather, but it's not quite as rainy as it is in winter. Also, just the colours that the leaves change is always a winner in my eyes. It's essentially getting the colours of the flowers from spring without the hay fever that comes with spring. I can find good things in most of the seasons. My least favourite would have to be summer though, because I'm a total hater and I just don't like warm weather. I don't deal well with heat. But autumn would have to be my favourite. Our next question came from Courtney, who asked, my question is for your mood trackers. What does the plus sign and minus sign stand for? So sometimes when I do the key for my mood trackers, I'll use little emojis, like really super happy smiley face versus really super sad smiley face versus somewhere in between. If that doesn't really work for the aesthetic that I'm going for, I'll instead just use little plus signs and little minus signs. So 2 pluses means a really good day, 1 plus means it was a good day, a dot will mean like, it was kind of okay, and then a negative will mean it wasn't a good day. I prefer working on that kind of scale rather than kind of diversifying my moods. I know when some people set up their mood trackers, they like to have excited, productive, angry, sad, happy, that kind of stuff. If I just use it on a positivity scale, it just makes it a little bit easier for me. As always, thank you to everyone who left questions on my last weekly plan with me, and also thank you to anyone who left me recommendations, either about how to deal with the changing of the colour paper, or with regards to teacher planners. If you guys have any questions you'd like me to answer in next week's plan with me, please do leave them in the comment section. And my question for you guys, what is a theme that you've always wanted to do in your bullet journal but haven't quite gotten around to doing it? Alrighty, so as you can see, I have a space for each of my 10 days, a small section here for any priority tasks, and then a long-running to-do list section on the side here. No decoration because I know I'll be back at school next week and I'll probably need all of the space that I can get, but I am looking forward to using this one. Thank you for watching, team. If you liked today's video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and if you wanted to see more from me, feel free to go check out one of my other videos. Until next time, bye!